Welcome back to the Real Power Podcast. Another awesome guest in the studio today. We got my man Jeremiah from Mountain House Media. We found Jeremiah through, actually, my brother Keegan found their Instagrams. Like, these guys are doing some legit work for both companies here in Rochester and national brands. I'll give you a quick rundown on Jeremiah. Jeremiah is the owner and CEO of Mountain House Media, a commercial production and post company based here in Rochester, New York. His company has worked with massive brands across the country and world, including Mountain Dew, Doritos, the Buffalo Bills, ESPN, PGA, and more. Their film and TV work has been featured on networks and streaming services like Paramount, A&E, Fox Business, and True TV. And like I said, I'm just selfishly excited as another business in this media industry to have someone that is way smarter. It'll be really cool to get Jeremiah's take on things and then also just learn about his journey in entrepreneurship, because I know he has a really, really cool story as well. So Jeremiah, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Looking forward to talking.
Take us back to the beginning of the journey for Jeremiah. Where does entrepreneurship begin for you?
Yeah. I feel like entrepreneurship has kind of always been a part of myself, whether or not I realized that over the years. Like, I can remember, stupid little businesses like as a kid, or like me talking up my friends being like, let's start a lawn mowing business.
So you were that guy that was...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was that guy.
Yeah.
Like, it was not, I'm sure some people were annoyed by it, but it was what kind of led me into where I am now. Is just like having that spirit around like nothing's too crazy to do, nothing's too challenging. But for me, like, the whole journey started when my friend Will Minch, who's here in town working as a crew member, and like he freelances with us all the time, which is really funny to see us kind of like meet back here. He introduced me to like cameras, and so he had this like little Olympus camera that he wasn't using. He gave it to me, and like we were just messing around, and I learned photography very slowly, self-taught through him. And then as I got into photographing and filming, I was also blending that with like my passions, which were like skiing and snowboarding, and then skateboarding and longboarding. So I wasn't the best skateboarder, but I was a really great skier.
Okay.
But I enjoyed I wasn't a freestyle skier. I was just like a really good on mountain skier, and I worked on the mountain. So when I was like 14, I got my first like T3i, like everyone's like classic old school DSLR camera that everyone got right when they were starting. So I got the T3i, and like I would go to work at the ski mountain. I'd do like race crew coordination. Then I would get done and like go film my friends messing around in the park. And so then started to go to events and started to film events and like make event recaps. And when we were making event recaps, or I was making event recaps, we ended up getting like a lot of views on YouTube and started to get like noticed for our recaps, because I always kicked them out within like a day. So what I usually ended up doing was I would go to the event, go home, edit that as soon as possible, and then post it the next morning. So I was always the first person out. And with that media attention, we started to, get attraction from like brands.
Yeah.
The brands would come in and they would be like, hey, like, you want some free merch, or you want some free skateboards or snowboards or whatever, and or we'll pay for your travel to go to this event.
That's sick.
So they would just kind of ship me around. So from like 14 to 17, I was just doing odd like free jobs kind of, and just learning the craft and just having fun at the same time. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's like the big thing.
Yeah.
It's like I had an excuse to go skiing.
That's it. Yeah.
I can't complain about that, While I was filming these events, I was teaching myself Premiere, I was teaching myself Photoshop, I was learning the basics of like editing and, trying to make fun and entertaining videos, and also like something that I would enjoy watching.
Yes.
Because like I was eventually my target audience essentially. So that kind of all led me into just like poking around on Craigslist one night, which who knows if that even exists, if that's like how people do anything anymore. But I found like a wedding videographer ad wanted for $150. I was like,
$150 to shoot a whole wedding?
yeah, $150. It was like 6 hours. And I'm like,
Let's do that.
sure, that's how much I make at like Panera for the day, or, I was working like 3 different jobs, and, on the ski mountain, in the ski store, and, at Panera, I was like, if I can just sub out one of those days to go for the wedding, like whatever, it's like I'm making the same amount of money. So I went out, I shot it, you know, the people loved it. I got a review from them. And then I just kept building on that. So once I had my first client, it was just like dominoes after that. I ended up subcontracting with a couple other companies, second shooting, or, you know, primary shooting, but doing it for a different company.
Yeah.
Then I ended up building, you know, a portfolio, started learning how to make websites and how to market myself, how to package my services and my prices, and like really attract, you know, brides and grooms when they're in that early phase to like select me as their photographer or videographer.
So wedding videography was really the stepping stone for you.
Yeah. Like everyone, you know, hates on it because like it's easy to get into industry but like there's also drawbacks to it. Like it's long days, you're gone Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It's a grind.
30 weddings a year is what I got up to while I was heading into RIT. And, you know, I was kind of just sitting there like, I kind of want my weekends back. Like freshman year, you know, you're supposed to go party and this and that. Right? Yeah. No. I got in freshman year, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'd be gone. My friends would be going to party and I'd be like, do over here doing my thing. They'd come back and be like, where the hell were you? And I'm like, working. And then I'd be editing at night in between classes and just kicking out things. And I was making like enough money to live, you know, on a full-time salary.
Sure,
and invest in my equipment and, you know, like develop my own little, you know, brand and company. And like, I was making enough money. I could have just dropped out of school at that point. So
did you really think about it? Did you really?
Oh my God. Yeah. Like it was kind of a no brainer because I was making like, you know, back then probably like net revenue, 150 to 180, like at the top end.
Yeah.
And, you know, after expenses and everything, and, you know, you get it down, like you invest in your gear and all that, like maybe, you know, 100, and I could take some of that out in profit, you know, and then take home some of that and reinvest the rest. But at that point, it was like, college just cost me 50, 60 grand a year. Do I stay? I'm a sophomore. I got 2 more years to go. I'm halfway in. Like, what do I do? So I met with my mentors and my chairman of my program, David Long, and then I met with Ricky Figueroa, who was also one of the teachers in the program. And they're both great friends to this day. Like I play in a golf league with both of them. And I sat with David, who is like a storied Kodak engineer who's, you know, just like the smartest person you ever met. I'm like, hey, like I'm making enough money. Can I just drop out and like, what do you think?
What'd he say?
He's like, you're 2 years in, you might as well finish up and change programs or something like that, where you could get through the program easier and have time to work on your business and learn other things. Like you could continue to go through this program, but I was struggling in math. Like I can do money math, I can do, you know, business math, but like high level calculus and the direction in which that program takes you in high level engineering for cinema is very demanding. And like my business partner, Andrew, finished in that program. So I'm lucky enough to have the full knowledge on one side.
Yes,
Exactly. And then I've learned the business side. I've learned the operations side. I've learned the marketing. I've learned all that kind of stuff. And like really taken on that CEO role and learned some of the basics back then.
Yeah.
But David's like, you could just drop out and you could make $100,000 a year or whatever, and it'd be fine. Or you could finish and you could possibly make some more connections and like see where this is going to go. And then I sat with Ricky, and Ricky's like, do it. Drop out, do it. Make a lot of money right now.
It's like the angel and devil.
Oh my God. It was like, it was the perfect angel devil situation. And, you know, I love both of them for giving me that spectrum there. But during my conversation, I was suggested to check out the School of Individualized Studies at RIT, which is essentially like a make your own major program. So for me, I met with the advisors. I'm like, hey, I want to finish in 4 years. This is what I'm doing outside of school. I, you know, I have my own business. I'm making money right now. I want to take classes that are going to allow me to learn concepts and apply those to my existing business and essentially use my business as a lab for my classwork.
Love that. Love that. Yep.
You know, that's how I got into SYS. And they're like, yeah, you can basically take any course that you want to across the campus as long as you get teacher approval. So I ended up taking all of the film production classes. I took ad photography classes. I took business. I took marketing. I took, you know, advertising. And then inside of the business, I was taking finance. I was taking legal and like just all the basics that you just have no exposure to if you're like a self-made entrepreneur. Like I didn't work as a VP or as a director at some other company and learn this corporate structure. That's all comes with like the fire and the flame. You know what I mean? It's like trial by fire. It's the best way to learn.
It is.
It really is.
It really is.
I came into SYS, did all of that, and then that brought me to my senior year in college. And during my senior year in the spring semester, I was selected for the gap year program in RIT. And so the gap year program was a program that was put together to give students with existing businesses inside of the SYS program money and time to work on their business. And since it was the first cohort and I was like already graduating, they're like, all right, if you graduate at the end of the summer, technically, we can get you in. And I was like, perfect. Like, I'm all for it.
Yep.
So they kind of partnered up with Magic Spell Studios at RIT, which is the big film and sound stage over there. And they're like, we're going to put you in the collaborative partner suite. So we had office space at Magic. We had access to their gear, to the studio, to all the facilities there.
Beautiful.
And then they also gave us funding to invest into efforts around the business. So we really kind of had to like sit down and be like, all right, video is going to become the main thing that people are going to put out in terms of content. What is the difference between the guy who can press record on an interview and like read some questions and us? We do great video production content, but like, how are we realistically different?
Different, yep.
We can claim our quality is better, but like, if we're not different in concept, then it's not a big enough differentiator between us and another company.
And what was the answer to that question? How are you
So
different?
we did a lot of pondering. We did a lot of rebranding and like really made the foundation of the brand of Mountain House and like the look, the feel, how we talk about it. And then, you know, from a perspective of business direction, we said, okay, like, where is the space headed? What is going to be the differentiator in Rochester specifically, but also on a national scale?
Yeah.
And with our background, we looked at emergent production technology. So around that time, The Mandalorian was coming out, which is filmed in a virtual production soundstage where it's basically emissive panels like a TV.
So cool. Yeah.
And then it's using 3D tracking to actually track the camera and project a real world view in a 3D environment on your TV background, if you will. And these are massive sound stages. They're, you know, millions and millions and millions of dollars to build these sound stages on that scale. But in Rochester, how can we take that and apply it to our clients' businesses, to our productions, and to productions where we can provide an additional edge?
Got it.
So we really settled on virtual production as like a first stepping
Like
stone.
a niche?
Yeah, like a niche, but emerging production technology on a larger whole. I mean, for us, emerging production technology is stuff like motion control and high-speed cinema robots, high-speed video capture, photogrammetry, videogrammetry, VFX, virtual production, AI tools. Like all this stuff kind of plays into, if you're just getting into this, you probably don't have the knowledge on.
The barrier to entry is so high.
Exactly. There's infrastructure behind it. There's processing power. There's the know-how. And so that's what we really said. All right, we have the background in this. We know how to communicate with creatives, but also the technical brains.
Yeah.
And say, all right, how do we achieve your creative or provide more ability for you to go bigger with your creative?
Yes.
Like, how could we remove those barriers from your process of, you know, making an ad, for instance?
Yeah.
So virtual production for us in Rochester solves the issue of bringing set to studio. So you want to go LA, New York City, Paris, you know, Georgia the same day. That's going to cost a lot of money and travel, right?
Yeah.
Well, in our case, we can project photo accurate environments and have the benefit of the lighting, the real-time reflections. If you want to have glass objects, there's no compositing to be done because it's all transparent onto an actual background. So it gives us the ability to take like products, people, and you know, our commercial productions to wherever we want to, whether that's real life or, you know, fantasy.
That's incredible. How realistic is it?
It's pretty realistic.
It's pretty damn good?
Yeah, it's like, it's a matter of a few things. It's like, how far are you going to spend, how much time are you going to spend on optimization? How much time are you going to spend on lighting? How much time are you going to spend on pre-lighting? Production design is huge because obviously when you walk into a virtual production stage, you have a blank stage and you have a background.
Yep.
And obviously in pre-production, you sit down and you think, what backgrounds am I going to need and what scenes am I going to need? You pre-produce those and then you have that ready for that day. But in this case, it's like, all right, you can't interact with that background, right? It's just digital behind you. But if you put physical objects in front of you and behind you and midground, foreground, and background and give it a feel of an environment, build out some propping in there, it's going to be much more realistic, much more interactable for the talent. And then for the other thing that really sells the effect is like, how do you blend the background and the midground and the foreground? So like things like atmosphere, like smoke or flare or accurate direction of lighting as where the sun is in that entire 3D simulation. Those are all very important aspects that help build believability.
Got it.
Yeah, it's all about selling the effect. The biggest benefit to virtual production is your crew, your client, your director of photography, everyone can see what the image is going to look like. There is no imagining on a green screen anymore. You know, if you're running away from the monster behind you, I'd rather see the monster and have a stimulus to react to.
Yeah.
And like be like, oh shit, you know, like let's
That's
go.
a good
you know?
point. Yep.
So that's like the biggest thing for virtual production is like it becomes more collaborative when you're working in a VFX environment or something that would traditionally require a green screen.
So cool, man. My mind is just spinning with ideas, hearing everything you guys are doing. And it's funny. I think Real 3D would be it would be a good name for what you guys do.
Yeah, right?
Wouldn't it really?
It would.
I'm thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
The technology we have today and the way you guys are leveraging it, it's truly, truly awesome.
Yeah. I think to the name point, you kind of brought up like a good little talking point. I mean, people ask me why we're called Mountain House Media.
Yeah, where'd it come from?
It came from where it all started. I mean, it was always on a mountain. It was always on, you know, that was where my passion was.
Skiing, yep.
I'm an avid hiker and skier, and you know, I enjoy spending my time on the mountain. And it's a place where you can like physically challenge yourself and also mentally challenge yourself. I'm like slowly working my way through the 46 high peaks.
Are you?
Slowly. You know, I got like 6 in right now, so like
Pretty
just
damn
started
good.
that
Nice.
recently. But like, I always enjoyed spending my time outdoors. I always enjoyed spending my time, you know, in that environment where just you have a challenge. And for me, I think Mountain House Media kind of relates back to, you know, we're always challenging ourselves. We're always trying to grow or reach that, you know, peak, you know,
Love it.
you know,
Yeah.
position, if you will.
Yep.
Whatever mountain related themes and you know, comments you want to put onto it, we can make jokes about it all day. But you know, it's really just like related to the passion and like kind of just staying grounded on the fact that like we do this because we love it. We do this because it provides us the ability to express ourselves creatively as an entrepreneur, to have freedom to do what we want to do outside of work and in work and be our own boss. So I think it's just, it kind of calls back to why I started this.
Love that. Yeah, and it's a cool name too. Mountain House Media. It just flows.
Yeah. I sat for a long time in my parents' basement going, da 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 da.
And then it clicked.
Something Productions. And then I was like, Mountain House Media. I was like, ooh, that sounds pretty good. I looked it up. Somebody else had already taken the domain.
Oh, was it taken?
There was another production company that was called Mountain House Media.
No
I
shit.
actually hit up the guy. I was like, hey, I haven't seen you post anything in a while. Are you like still active with this name? He's like, actually, I'm rebranding right now.
Did you buy the domain?
So I bought the domain for $100.
$100?
Yeah,
What a
man. He's like, I'm
deal,
shutting
man.
it down. Like you can take Mountain House Media, the name, and I took it from. He was a wedding videographer too, and now he's in commercial production.
What are the chances of that? That's
Dude,
crazy.
it was kind of like it already had some built-in brand authority. You know,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did like Luke Combs' first video. Like,
What?
yeah, if you look up Mountain House Media, one of the like top results is a music video that someone else did under the brand.
Now it's
you know,
under
a
your
long time
name.
ago. So now I'm getting some traffic from that, but don't put that one in there.
That'd be a good conversation starter for Luke Combs if you're like, yo, we actually.
Yo, we did your old video, right, man? Like, you know, let's hop on this.
Let's kind of get a little granular here for the young entrepreneurs watching. And let's say, you know, they're inspired by Jeremiah and your story and the direction you're taking your company with virtual production. What's your advice to that young entrepreneur who maybe wants to start something similar to like get their business going, get traction in the beginning?
My advice to young entrepreneurs is like, there's a few things, and that's all comes in steps. You know, I think the first and foremost thing is just do it.
Just do it.
Just start. Just do it. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I was 17, and I'm like, sure, I'll charge $150. And like, I just kept raising that price, and I kept raising that price, and I had no idea what I was doing. So if I can figure it out with some Google searches and things like that, I'm sure you can figure it out too. And so for me, when you're getting into being an entrepreneur or like starting your own business or doing a creative agency or anything like this, you know, it comes down to like, can you just have blind confidence in yourself to go and figure it out? And then having the learning mentality to just like figure it out
Yes.
along the way. Because as an entrepreneur or the founder and CEO or whatever your title is at the beginning, you're building the processes in every department by what you do, and then figuring out how do you delegate that to new people.
That's the game. Yep.
That's the game. It's like you got to work on the business, not in the business. And especially if you start out as a creative that was like a director, photographer, producer, editor, whatever, you kind of want to have your hands in the productions and like want to actually work on them.
Yes.
But the downside to that is that you're not focusing on getting new leads, making new sales, marketing yourself, things that are very important to the next 3 to 6 months.
Yes.
Whereas the day of, like, once that sale's in, you got to hand that off to your team for fulfillment and like have a trusted operations team that can just get it done. And then setting the quality standards and the culture of like having a high quality, doing the best thing that you possibly can for your client. We say we like to go the extra mile. So how do you go the extra mile on everything that you do for a client, or in pushing your creative a little bit further, or being a little bit more creative, or using new technical abilities that we are developing? Like that's the spirit that you want to instill into the team.
Yep.
So that you can actually take your hands off and let it run.
You're preaching, man. And I think it's so important, especially in our creative industry where most people do get into it out of a passion and they love what they do, right? Like I was not that person, but you kind of were that person.
Yeah.
And if you want to be shooting and doing all that, then that's fine. And I think there's something to be said for understanding yourself. If you want to be a wedding videographer full time and do it because you love shooting weddings, maybe growing and scaling a business isn't for you. And I think having that self-awareness to know what path you want to go down is so important.
Yeah. I think there's always something to consider is like there's 4 directions a business can go. It can be a lifestyle business. You can grow the business and raise funds.
Yep.
You could scale it, or you could shut down the business completely, or you could just let it die. Like it's what direction do you want to drive it in? How do you want to be in control of your life? Because when you raise funds, you're not like working for yourself. You have investors and shareholders that you need to provide a return for. At
People at the table now. Yep.
Exactly. And that's what Shark Tank and like all these big, programs hype up, is this raise fund mentality style of entrepreneurship, which entrepreneurship just isn't that in all cases. Like, I forget the statistic, but like majority of the businesses in the US are small businesses.
Yeah.
So, I was just selected for the Small Business Person of the Year award as one of the finalists, and you get to meet all these other Rochester business owners and get a spectrum of like, what do they work on? What do they do? And they're half the time, they're not like super glamorous businesses,
No.
and like, that's the thing is like being an entrepreneur, you don't have to have a glamorous business. I know plumbers and roofers and electricians that make millions of dollars, and it doesn't sound sexy and it doesn't sound like, inspiring that you're building the next Uber, but it's still entrepreneurship. It's still like a path to having your own personal freedom.
I love that because it's the mindset I had, being younger and kind of knowing I was an entrepreneur. I thought that I had to build the next Facebook. And I don't know if you thought that way too. And then I realized, wait a second, like you said, boring businesses, there's a shit ton of money in boring businesses. And I've had a lot of them on the show, actually. I just had Anthony Valeria, Chimneys.
Who would think Chimneys does so well?
Like, who would think?
Right? Yeah. Like, I remember meeting Anthony when he was, smaller crew, smaller building, and we did some of his broadcast ads. And then this man just like took off.
Blew up.
Just absolutely starts running. He's like, I can't, get enough people to do this, or I can't.
It's a good problem.
I'm filling my schedule and I need to raise the prices. And I'm like, that's the dream, man.
Yeah,
like that's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So like, it's cool to see like even businesses I work with and like the small business or the, Anthony, I'm not digging on your business, boring businesses, like actually doing boring. Yeah. Anthony does a really good job making it exciting, but
he does, he really does.
He's an entertaining guy, but that's like a traditional business you wouldn't think is the Facebook or the Uber or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there is part of that where you gotta still maintain a sense of like innovation and a sense of like we want to get bigger and we have to put plans in action to like slowly make those steps. But like it all comes over the years. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years in production.
Yep.
I've been doing Mountain House Media for 8 years now. We're coming up on 8 years in January. And like it's been very different in every phase of the business. Like when you're $100,000 to $200,000, it's a different phase than 500 to $1 million. 500 to $1 million is like the death zone. Like you don't have enough money to hire people to do everything.
Yeah.
And you still have to have like your hands slightly on the business and slightly like, working on the business.
Yeah.
But once you break that path, there's a whole like category where,
It opens up.
Yeah, 1 to 5 million. Like they always say your first million is the hardest to make, right? You're focus on your second million. I forget the quote, whoever said that, but if you make over that $1 million mark, life becomes much easier. It becomes much more open. You can start to focus on more of the setting the vision, and the values and the long-term goals of the company. Which when you're in the business and just starting, it's very hard to like step back and be like, what's my vision? Where do I have to go? At the end of the day, we all have, on the good end, 100 years, like, what do you want to do with your life? So for me, like, I want to, be able to enjoy time with my family. I want to be able to enjoy my weekends. I want to go skiing, in the future, if I, can afford it, get a house on the mountain so I can just ski out of my back door.
Yeah.
Like those are the things that you kind of have to have some sort of aspiration. You don't need to be the next Mark Cuban,
right?
But can you set some sort of goal, aspiration? Is that, paying off your child's tuition for college? Is that, helping your parents retire? Like, these are some things that entrepreneurship can open up to you as options, but like kind of picking where you want to go is important to then back up and set the vision for where you want the company to go.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, if you're the primary shareholder, all the company effort is going to benefit you. But once you start to bring in investors, same deal, that's going to benefit them. But you still have to ask yourself, what's in it for me? Because you want to be motivated. And like unselfishly motivated, of course.
What's been your biggest struggle or challenge as an entrepreneur in this 8-year or decade that you've been in it?
I think, growing through that death zone I was talking about, that's really challenging. And like you feel spread very thin. So, once you break through that, it's like life kind of opens up and you feel a little bit better. But like, for me, it's like with the ups and downs of the business for the first 5 to 6 years, there was no down in the business. It was always up, 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 up. And which was really amazing. Like my projections was just, all right, let's 2x this year. Let's 2x this year. Let's 2x this year. And that always self-fulfilled.
Yeah.
And when we came into COVID, that gave us a boost actually, because people had to go in studio. They had to be doing video content.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see. But then the long tail of COVID came and we saw film production and TV producers stop producing because of regulations. They built infrastructure in other countries so that they could go produce in laxed, markets in terms of regulation. And then that just compounded once we got into like the WGA strikes, the SAG strikes, like all the film industry strikes really put a damper on the production industry as a whole when it comes to film and TV. And so for us, 3 years ago, we were looking at about a third in terms of client mix, where it was a third direct to business, a third to our agency partners, and a third to film and television producers or other production companies, where over the past 3 years with these strikes and the shifts in the market to favor other countries to produce content or just not producing content at all, there has been a slash in like one of our major client sets. So we haven't seen a film and TV show in like a year and a half, So adapting through that, trying to figure out like, all right, business strategy wise, we got to get more agency partners. We got to get more direct to business clients. We got to plug ourselves in to make it easier for clients to buy from us and understand. Cause in film and television production, everything's itemized and everything's down to labor. And like, it's very soup and nuts. Like this is what you get.
Yeah.
Whereas like a client wants what the video does for them.
The result, yeah.
They don't want the video.
They don't care about the lights and the colors, and
it's cool to come in and like they say that when you put the matte box on the camera, it's the big check, right? It's a little bit of that. You want to have that wow factor of like, holy crap, these
perception
guys,
almost though, right?
Yes, it's very much perception. I mean, like the same stuff that I can do with my Red and my very expensive lenses and all cinema high end stuff, you can do with your smaller camera and a gimbal. And
even this sometimes too.
The phone, yeah. I mean, the phone has come so much farther than you'd ever expect it. So it's like the content is subjective of how it's made, but the result is always going to be different. And then the strategy, the recommendations, the client experience, the ability to have a studio, the ability to have your own gear, the ability to hire globally, or to ship your crew different places. Like people call me for the oh shit moment. They're like, I need a crew tomorrow with 10 people and, you know, a whole load of gear. If I'm renting, if I don't have internal employees, or if I don't have the right, you know, contractor relations, then I can't fulfill on those jobs.
So they have
it's
a
like,
big problem that you can solve.
exactly. And so like in production, it's very last minute. It's very, you know, it comes down to the wire. And so that's not something that's like different, but it's a way that you can be successful to fulfill on those. So, you know, being adaptable and like changing up your strategy and changing up how you approach the business or how you think about the services you sell and things like that, to then, you know, mitigate some of those market factors really is important. And so, you know, over the past 3 years, I've experienced ups and downs in the market. You know, people are concerned about recessions. They're concerned about the elections. Like, they tend to hold on to their marketing budgets until it gets to the end of the year, or until they have a use it or lose it situation. So it's like, all right, we got to understand the cycles of business. We got to understand, you know, it's a 4-year cycle for that kind of stuff. It's we have to understand what our clients are feeling in terms of internal pressure. So like stepping into your client's shoes and understanding that as well is something I've learned as an entrepreneur. Like, you have to understand what it's doing for your client, and personally for them, is it going to help them look better? Is it going to help them get a new promotion, a job? Or is this going to help them get a raise? Like, is this going to resolve issues of time or of leads or of candidates? Like those kind of issues that your client is ultimately looking to solve through a marketing strategy, which is video and video production.
Yeah, just thinking about that and like truly putting yourself in the shoes of the person you're talking to, because everyone's a human being and they have wants and goals. And if you can leverage that almost, not in a malicious way, but knowing like, I can help you get what you want if you help us.
Especially on the small business side. Because then you're talking with owners and like they know what the outcome is going to be. There's no distribution, but like we work with a lot of like corporate and enterprise, and there's politics you got to play.
Oh, there's lots.
When you're an enterprise, like there might be 5 layers of stakeholders above your primary contact, even though they have a VP title. So like, how do you deal with internal politics? How do you deal with their goals and their aspirations and what they want to be doing and how much time they want to spend on these things? And it's like, you play a little bit of a mind game and a sales game, but like if you can make things stupid simple in terms of your value proposition, then it's usually an easy sell.
And what is your biggest value proposition, would you say? What is the result that you're driving for your clients?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, it depends on who we're talking to. So I think for creatives, like people that are video production or agency professionals, we allow you to do more. We allow you to do things in a faster time period. We allow you to, or we enable you to do more with your creative, or to do more with your timelines or with your budget. So from a value proposition on that end, when we're working with other production companies, agencies, or film and television producers, we just have more options available to us. Whereas like when we're working with a corporate or entity or a enterprise, it's like, we know these guys can get it done. We know it's not just 1 or 2 people, it's a full team. And that they have the proven track record, they have the proven processes. Like workflow is a huge part of our entire business. It's like our background in the cinema industry, we have workflow, data storage, data management down to a T, because I know a lot of other production companies where you come in, you do a project with me, and then, all right, I got a drive, and I'm going to throw this drive in the closet once I'm done. Hey, I need my media from a year ago. Oh crap!
Shit.
Is that drive still A, working? B, can I find it? And C, like how long is it going to take it to get it to you? For us, we've got IT systems in place. You know, we've got almost like a 0.5 petabyte of storage online. Yeah, it's stupid.
A what a byte?
0.5 petabyte.
What's that in relation to terabyte?
It's 500 terabytes.
500
terabytes. Yeah.
Okay.
So a petabyte's 1,000 terabytes.
Holy shit.
So which we're actively upgrading as well. So like we have so much storage, and we have the system in place that like you come back 5 years later, I have your media available, even the raw footage and the project files and all those things. So like in terms of client experience, like you can depend on us on a long-term partner. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know that we can fulfill. We know that we have the systems and processes in place to make your life easier. And then like taking ourselves out of the creative shoe and being like, what's the client experience like? How do you review a video? That used to be one of the worst things on God's earth. It's, you know, you had time code, change this at this time code that changed this at this time. You know, we implement a review process tool. So like, you know, you go in and you type your comment and it's already time coded. You can circle things on there. And so from a client perspective, the post-production process becomes much more collaborative, much more transparent. You can check back between V1, V2, and V3 in your finalized version and see, all right, these were the comments that were made. They're checked off as done. Here's the prior version. I like this in the other version better. Like that feedback process, if you can automate that, or not automate that, but you know, if you can optimize that and streamline that, it improves the client experience at the end of the day.
Yeah. Right on, man. You guys are dialed. I can tell.
Try to be, you know, try to have all the systems in place.
And we got to get over to your studio, by the way, because I will take you up on that offer because I just want to see how the magic happens with what you guys do. Let's talk about your current team real quick because we didn't really hit on that too much. What does the makeup of your team look like right now? How many guys you got? Like, what's it look like?
So we got about 6 full-time people right now, but we scale up and down over the years, obviously based on workload. And then we do hire co-ops quite often. So usually summer co-ops are where we'll have the most people on over the summer, where it's typically the busiest. But most of the people that I actually have hired have all been people I met at RIT, worked with on student projects while we were, you know, classmates, and then they've gone on to full-time positions with us.
Cool.
Because I'm like hiring people as I'm like, hey, do you want a job? You know what I mean? So like it worked out well. Most of our team members are from Rochester. And then we do have a couple of other team members that are like self-taught, you know, completely self-taught, like School of YouTube kind of thing. And they just, exactly. They broke down our door kind of deal and said like, let me have a job.
Give me a job.
Like, okay, you have good stuff. Like, I could, you know, have you as part of the team. And like, usually everyone will start as like a contractor and then they'll move into a full-time position.
Got it.
So it's basically like you get to work with people, see how you work together, you know, feel how the collaboration is, that kind of stuff. But the other thing on the co-op side is like a lot of our team members who have co-opted have either gone on to become full-time members or have gone on to really successful other jobs. Like we have people that have gone out and freelance on their own in LA. We've had people that have gone on to like major animation companies. So like it's cool to see us as like a first stepping stone into larger productions or into, you know, the larger industry. And so I'm really proud of like seeing that over the years.
Well, it's cool you have that perspective too, because I feel like it'd be very easy to just be like, man, I want the talent to stay with me, right? But pouring into people so that they can have a better career, that's doing something special. And
we do have a really good retention rate, and like we don't have high head turnover at all. So it's really cool to see that like our people are invested in it for the long term, and they like the job, they like working there. I mean, for me as an employer, I want our people to walk out in a better position, obviously. So, you know, we try to do things and make sure that people have health care and they have, you know, eye and dental, and they have life insurance, and they have 3 weeks PTO so that they can go out and enjoy themselves. Cause I think creative burnout is a huge thing. So as long as you can like provide for your people, you know, a solid, stable job, with good pay, good benefits, and, you know, the ability to enjoy their life outside of work.
It's huge.
I think that's where we're headed, is that people want to have a job that's fulfilling, but is not their entire personality. You know, when you go work at one of the big tech companies, you are you know, you're in that every single day.
It's your life.
They keep you there. It's like you're hostage, you know? So like for us, it's kind of a, you know, a team mentality. We like to have fun. We like to go do, you know, team little events, and, you know, go do things to celebrate the little wins here and there. So we try to have a fun culture. And try to like make sure that we break up the stress and rigor of production and post-production, because those timelines are tight. Like it is very hard to pump out, you know, multiple videos a week and then be like, all right, I'm ready to be creative. So sometimes you got to like take part of the workday and, you know, step back from it and have team meetings or have team events where it's like we can just relax for a second.
Let the mind just...
because like most of your creative ideas are not going to be done sitting at the desk thinking, I need to be creative.
It's when you're in the shower.
It's when you're in the shower. It's the shower thought. It's the bike ride thought. It's the walking the dog. It's the having a conversation with mom on the phone and like, oh crap, I got to go write that down. Like any of those kind of things where you can just let your mind wander for a minute and not focus on like the executional side of things.
That's massive. I've noticed that too. Like I walk regularly now, just number one for the health reason, and number two, I get so many ideas. The whole walk, I'm just like, oh, yep, doing that in the business, doing that, implement that.
Yep.
Walks have been huge for me. I wanted to talk about partnerships real quick because I think you could, share some wisdom on that and how to most effectively and successfully like navigate running a partnership in a business, because not all partnerships work, and clearly you guys are doing something right. So like, what have you found has worked best for you with partnerships?
And so when you say partnerships, you mean like co-founders?
Co-founders,
Yeah. So I think for me, starting a business was kind of happenstance. Like it all just kind of snowballed. It never really meant to sit down and be like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And then I realized what was happening. And I was like, okay, I guess I can take on this as part of the direction I want to go in.
Yeah.
But I think when you're an entrepreneur, the experience is very lonely.
Oh yeah.
You're in your own bubble. You're in your own world. As a CEO, you have a concentrated stream of the worst problems in your company every single day, and some of the best things.
Yep.
But your job is to figure out problems at the end of the day, and the worst problems, and not the fun problems. And occasionally you're going to have like, oh, we want a sale, but like that's going to come with, we got to do like red line contract review or whatever. But like having that be your experience, it becomes lonely over the years, or over the journey, if you will. So when you find someone that can be your co-founder or your business partner or your investor that understands that experience, understands the struggles and the strife that you go through on a daily basis, but also brings something different to the table, that's where a co-founder or a business partner works out well. Is like, Andrew is very different from me. He is much more technical. He's a way better writer than me. He's much more operational and procedural than me. Whereas I will have the idea and we're going to go for it. Or I'm not afraid to say something stupid in terms of like, we're going to go for this in terms of, a goal. And it might just seem so insane to someone else. But for me, like I see those steps. And I see those micro moments that you have to make things happen. And I see the roadmap, and it's not that daunting when you can break it down like that. But for me, I run the business, I run the sales, the marketing, the overall brand of the company. I get on camera quite a bit.
Yep.
I get out there as the face, But Andrew, operationally, he technically is the one that's running that side of the business.
The back end. Yeah.
Exactly. So like when you have somebody that has business and operations and you guys are two different minds, you can spread that stress out a lot more. Like you can actually take a step back at night and say, I can sign off, So like having a business partner does a lot for you, but it's finding the right business partner.
That's it right there.
Because you don't want to clash with them. Like having a business partner that you end up clashing with and then have to go through, a business divorce, you don't want to do that. So like having good operation agreements, having good expectations for the vision, having good expectations of input in terms of leadership, input in terms of financials, like, all those things. When you guys are on the same page, like,
yes.
Yeah. And it doesn't hurt when you're best buddies with them. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. It's like,
you have to get along with.
Yeah. If you enjoy working with someone, it makes your life so much easier. If you enjoy that person, then like you're not going to be miserable going to work.
We have fun every day. I don't know about you guys, but I enjoy every single day. I mean, we have problems, but we do it together, and having that camaraderie with your team is massive. Having complementary skill sets is the key, right? You can't be the same person, or like you said, you're going to clash.
Yeah.
Laying those expectations out, like you said. And it's not even about putting like a contract to things and like making it all legal, which is like, you should do that, but it's just getting it down so that you both see it and are aware of what the responsibilities are of each person.
Yeah.
I think is the key.
Yeah, I think it's at the end of the day, it's like one of you has to be insane and one of you has to be logical. I'm the insane one.
You're the insane one.
I'm the one that can say, let's just do this crazy thing. Like, let's build a virtual production stage in the middle of Rochester where there is not LA film productions happening or there is not New York City film productions happening. But like 4 years later, here we are still operating the same virtual production stage, still the only one between Toronto and New York City, and we're employing in our projects every day. So like, would one of us that's the operational executional side be crazy enough to say that. That's why you need a balance of both.
Yeah.
You need that scale, you know? You need to have that devil and angel.
Right on,
And
man.
which one you play is up to you.
What kinds of things do you do to cultivate a strong mindset as an entrepreneur? How do you keep yourself sane even when you're insane?
One of my big things I kind of always just repeat to myself is that failure is not an option. It's like you can close down the business tomorrow and be like, I'm done. That is an option. But in reality, like for me, once we've built to a certain place, it's like failure is not an option. Even the worst case scenario is not failure, you know, like there's still a way forward at all times. So just reminding yourself that failure is not an option, but also not a likelihood at the end of the day, and kind of trying to step back from it. And also like, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I tend to work myself into a hole. Like, you know, I have to remind myself that like I can stop working at some points and just like step back. I can go on vacation. You know, that's when you have a team, you have the luxury to be like, I can reclaim a little bit of my time. Because also if you're not mentally in the best headspace, physically in the best headspace, you know, health-wise in the best headspace, you're not going to bring your best to your team every day.
Bring all that energy into the business. And,
Exactly. It's like if you're crabby because you're not sleeping, which I'm guilty of. I'm a night owl, so like
me too.
if I got morning meetings and stuff like that, it's like I'm up, but like at the end of the day, if you're not bringing good energy or good drive to the company because you're not physically, mentally, health-wise doing well, then everyone else suffers at the end of the day. So, you know, for me, I like to ski. I like to walk the dog. I like to hike. I like to, you know, spend time with my family. I took the summer and built a shed. Like, you know, I like to work with my hands. Ironically, I think one of the coolest things I've done over the year is like, I can't meditate at all. I'm not like a meditator, but I took like some glass blowing classes.
Really?
And it's the closest thing I could ever get to meditation.
You get into like that flow state?
Oh yeah. It's really, cause like, it's like lamp working. So it's not like full like punty tube, you know, glass blowing with a kiln kind of thing. It's just like bench top.
Okay.
And you're making like little figures and stuff like that, like, you know, fish or ornaments or whatever.
Yeah.
But what was really cool about that experience was A, I've never done it. B, I like to work with my hands. And then the other thing is like when I'm working on a piece or like something in the fire, you can't break your focus or think about anything else but that. So like you can't be stressed. You can be stressed about the piece of glass, but you have to be mindful of what you're doing, how fast you're heating it, how you're pulling it, how you're twisting it, making sure it's not cooling down outside of the fire. So it's like just this singular focus activity.
It really is meditation.
It was probably one of the coolest things is that it was as close to meditation as I could possibly have gotten.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that. So like, I think that like having activities like that bring you to your, for lack of a better word, happy place or like your zen, like it's kind of powerful.
Yeah. I heard that perspective from Tim Ferriss. Do you know who Tim Ferriss is?
Yeah.
He was saying like, meditation doesn't have to be cross-legged, like sitting in a room by yourself.
Yeah.
I've tried it too. I'm just never good at it. But when I, like you just said, when I'm focused on a singular task that takes all my mental energy to not mess up, it almost is that way of not clearing your mind, but being so consciously aware of what you're doing and letting the rest of your thoughts just float by, right? Nothing else matters. And I think that is really the art of meditation is finding those activities in your life. So that's a cool one. I might have to try a class now after hearing that.
It's a lot of fun. There's one on the west side called Arc and Flame.
Yes, I've heard of it.
He's a RIT alum too.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael Mahaney, I think. Yeah.
I think we actually went there when I was at my corporate job at Wegmans. We went there for like a company event.
Yeah, they got the like knife smithing classes.
Do they do like welding and stuff?
Yeah.
We definitely went there. Yeah.
So they have a glass blowing class that they do different like sessions, different whatever, and it's like 8 weeks or whatever, and you just go every Wednesday. You get 3 hours on the torch, and like it's a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not too expensive either.
We'll start to wrap up here. Okay. Goals for the future. Where is Mountain House Media headed? Where do you see yourself in your company maybe in the next couple of years and long term?
Yeah. From a production standpoint, I think the goal is always to work with bigger clients on a bigger stage, essentially, like on a global scale, on a national scale, and having that be a higher percentage of our clients. Obviously, that does not mean like isolating the small and medium business clients that we work with, but like working into those larger budget productions. That's where we thrive. I mean, we know the process that the industry at a a high professional standard expects of us and the technical requirements of it. So we excel really well with large broadcast commercials or, branding projects with large brands. And I think that's where the team enjoys it the most because it brings us some really cool experiences.
Yeah, sure.
Like through those projects, we've worked with Josh Allen, we've worked with
saw
Von
that.
Miller, we've worked with Stefan Diggs. Like we've been, we've worked on a Cracker Jacks project, Baseball Hall of Fame. And so like, those kind of projects and like others like Ticketmaster, where we had our photography appear in one of their Super Bowl type advertisements.
Cool.
It's like having that be a more core of our overall productions because I think that's just really where people get excited.
Yeah.
And like from sales and marketing perspective, it looks great.
Yeah.
And from a team perspective, there's always something new and exciting and fast timelines. And it's not like things got to get done when you're on a national scale like that or a global scale. It's not like we can pause for a month.
Yeah.
You got 50 people on the ad agency side, 50 people on the company side, and then our entire team working on this. So you got to get it done.
Got accountability.
Yeah, exactly. So I really enjoy those type of projects and like the client set. So, over the long term, we want to be known as a production brand or production company that is not just well known regionally and, in our area, but on a national scale, on a global scale. So that when you mention companies like Weta VFX or Lucasfilms or, ILM, like these giant production companies that specialize in the newer emerging production technologies like, virtual production or VFX or those kind of things, I would be mentioned in the same breath.
Mountain House Media is in that conversation.
Exactly. So, that's the dream is like, being the ILM of production, or something that's similar to that, where it's like you're just pushing the bar at all times. Because creatively, we want to push the bar to do more, but also from a technical perspective, like we just enjoy working on those technical projects. Like, like when we were starting out in virtual production, there was no handbook. It was literally like a couple of YouTube videos, beating your head against the wall until it worked, quite literally, and maybe a desk, but like, doing that kind of work where there is not an answer, there is not a process, but there's an outcome you're looking for, and then modifying that over time is really kind of a cool, fulfilling R&D side of the business. And so we've added on things like that over the years and just keep adding on to it bit by bit. So like obviously as we look towards the future, AI tools becomes a huge part of where we're going to go in production. I don't think AI tools are going to completely replace production companies or, film video production. It's kind of the same thing as what happened with digital and film. We still shoot on film for commercials or for, film and TV. There's a reason, it looks like it looks and it has the play of film that you can achieve somewhat in digital, but it's just never the same. There's that organic media versus a digital sensor that is electronic. So there's a difference there. Now, when you look at AI, it's like with the new models that are coming out, with the new tools that are coming out, they are getting to the point where video generation is pretty darn close to real life in some cases.
Scary, yeah.
It's getting there. And will that in the next 24 months be able to replace what you and I create? I don't know. I don't think so. Not yet. After 36 months, though, all bets are off. The biggest things in the way of AI right now are infrastructure, like electrical, data centers, and processing power. It's that's holding it back long term. So if there's investment on that, on the national scale, on the big tech scale, it's going to enable them to do more long term, and things are going to move a lot faster. 2 years ago, there wasn't a really good option for text to image and image to image. It was just getting started, and obviously with ChatGPT coming out and all that, and I won't rip on all the different brand names and all that. That you've opened Pandora's box, so there is no putting it back in the box. You and I have to enable ourselves to use those tools
And adapt.
adapt exactly to better yourself in a couple of ways, whether that's being able to iterate your creative faster, get higher stakeholder buy-in, or to put your ideas out on paper faster. I can't draw, but what the great thing is with text to image or image to image, I can sketch something and then it can make it into a full-blown image.
It's wild.
And using that to communicate with clients is way more powerful than me like explaining and like talking. And like you have to put the hardest part of being a creative is getting what's up here out there and like being able to explain it before you've done it. And from my perspective, pre-production wise and stakeholder and sales, stakeholder buy-in, it's much easier for them to visualize it when they can literally see it. So AI tools and things like that are going to come into play more and more and more. And if you choose to just be like, this is too much, then I feel like you're going to get left behind.
I agree. And I always say, like, people are scared the robots are going to take over and replace us. But in reality, the ones who learn to use AI and leverage it, and the ones who can be like AI engineers using it, are the ones who are going to win and implement it the best. So it's embracing it, man. Like you said, it's adapting, it's being quick, nimble on your feet, and just taking day by day. How can we get better? 1% better today.
Yeah.
And I can see that you have that mentality, and it's just so cool to see what you guys have done. And I'll be honest, man, I didn't realize that you guys were in Rochester until my brother found you, like I said. And now I'm very intrigued by you, and I think we'll be getting lots of beers together and just chatting it up.
Yes.
So Jeremiah, thank you for being here today.
Of course.
This has been amazing. Do you have a favorite book before we end? Do you have a favorite book?
Have a couple. I'm not a big reader, but I do listen to like audiobooks here and there. It's been a hot minute since I've dove into a new one, but
what's one that's had a big impact on your life?
I really liked Good to Great. Obviously it's like business case studies and like the differences between one brand and another brand, what took them off, like Walgreens and I think it was Kinko's or something like that. And like, the difference between those two brands and the leadership and how it was affected, the plans and the strategies that they put in place, I thought was really an interesting viewpoint to see from a large business perspective scale. I also liked Patrick Bet-David's Your Next 5 Moves.
Yeah.
I think he's just a really good speaker.
He is.
I don't agree with everything he says, but I think he has just a way of like
he's
getting you a little hyped up.
He's confident.
Yes.
And he has a lot of conviction in how he speaks.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I think like that was a good one. 12 Months to a Million was a quick read, quick listen one. It's about like e-commerce brand building, and like what I enjoyed about that one is that every chapter basically repeats the same mantra. It's 6 products, 50 sales a month at $25.
It's just the math.
And that's $1 million. That's $1 million business. And like they just keep repeating that every single part of the chapter and reminding you. And like, it kind of just shows you that, like, I think for some people who think it's very daunting, it's like, it's not that daunting.
Yeah.
50 sales is not that much.
Yeah.
$25 is not that much. 6 products is not that much. So I think it does a good job of pulling, like, at least on the e-commerce business side, pulling some of that like fear out of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a quick read. It was a fun one.
Those are good. Those are all great.
I also enjoy Chris Voss and
Never
his
Split the Difference.
masterclass. Yeah, I think I've read part of Never Split the Difference, but I also watched his masterclass on sales. And I thought that was really an interesting way to
His approach.
think about sales. Yeah. I mean, he's like an FBI interrogator or whatever, and I thought just like the thoughts and the process of like what was echoing back and like
Mirroring.
Yes, yeah, like those interesting like kind of interpersonal techniques.
Oh, yeah.
That drive a sale somehow.
Yep.
Is very cool. You know?
I'm obsessed with that stuff too. That was one of my favorite reads, and being a podcast host too, so much of that applies to what I'm doing right here. And he's a wizard.
He is. It's cool because like in this case, like I'm normally in your position and I'm normally the one interviewing.
Yeah.
So it's cool to be on the flip side of it and like trying not to interview you. You know what I mean? Like
We can do a second episode.
yeah, there you go. I'll interview you. There you go.
Cool, man. Those are all good recommendations. One that I always come back to is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I don't know if
I have that one downloaded. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, that's a great one of just human behavior and calling people by their name and looking them in the eye. Like just very basic stuff that will help you in anything in life.
Yeah.
Communicate better. So that's another great one. But reading in general, man, education, whether it's Audible, whether it's physical books, whether it's podcasts, like find a way to continue to educate yourself, because if not, you will get left behind, like you said.
I'm not a reader at all, so I have to like force myself to, the school of YouTube's one thing, but I think
YouTube, yeah.
book content and like well-written, well-digested things are going to get to you in a different way. So like I try to build that in a little bit more here and there.
Yeah.
And, reading has never been my strong skill, so I'm glad that there's more out there. I'm a
Alternatives to
visual
it.
person, you know, I'm an
Yeah.
auditory person, so like it's better that I can
Yeah.
just listen to it and get that same kind of content.
Absolutely, man.
You got to
Absolutely.
find your outlet.
Where can people connect with you? And also, let's plug, you said you have an open house maybe coming up?
Yeah, so a couple of things coming up is we got the Mountain House Media Fall open house coming up here very shortly. So don't have dates announced
Okay.
yet, but I'll we'll be having that, and then we usually open up our studio, do some demos, and just invite the community in to come and check out the place.
Sweet.
So that's coming up here soon, and then just releasing new work and getting some of our content out there. Been producing more educational content on like what is virtual production, what is motion control, and like things for people who are just starting to learn about some of these technologies they're working on that can digest it down into some short chunks. So
Awesome.
that's some of the content that we got coming out here
What are
soon.
your social media handles for people?
Yeah, so people can find us at Mountain House Media on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. I mean, you name it, we're pretty much on all the social media.
Great.
Personally, they can find me at Gryczka at Jer_Gryczka on Instagram.
Okay.
And on LinkedIn as well too. I do post quite a bit on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Awesome. Go follow Jeremiah in Mountain House Media. They are killers. And like I said, I'm excited to connect with them more and just learn from them because as an agency in a similar industry, we have a lot to learn. And it's inspiring to see where he has taken Mountain House Media. So Jeremiah, thank you again for being here today. I think the younger entrepreneurs watching, especially the more creative ones, we'll get a lot of value out of this episode, and I think you brought your A game today, so I appreciate that.
Thanks, man. It's been very fun to sit here, talk with you, and like you're a great interviewer. So
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to sit down and actually get to chat.
Absolutely, and if you want to interview me, then we can have
We'll
the
flip the
studio
scene
and
here.
we'll flip the seat. You can sit over here, and I'll sit
Perfect.
over there. And it's funny. I've had a couple guests be like, "It's time for you to be on the other side
Yeah.
and tell your story." So I definitely got to get one out there where I'm the one in the hot seat. So
Yeah, exactly. Got to
that'll be
hear a little
fun.
bit more about that journey.
Absolutely. So, all right, guys, thank you so much as always for tuning in. As I was telling Jeremiah, the goal of this show is for you guys, the younger generation. I was in the shoes of someone who wasn't happy with the career they were in, and now I've been able to, 5 years later, build a business that is truly something I'm so proud of and create a new life for myself. So that is the objective of the show here, is to help you guys do the same and see that there's so many paths to get there. So if you enjoyed today's show, please share with a friend. The shares help the show grow. As always, I appreciate you, and we will catch you in the next episode. Peace out.